Naga.
Bure. Sang zen sare.
Okay.
Ngati na shisha sang. Lo bure Nagara.
Remember to sare.
Lo. Insare. Dingen pa insare. Dingen pa.
Kale nyang mo
La.
Kale nyang mo
Dire. Nyang.
Ta ka yo tio. Ya, gom ju shi ba. Gangala sobe. Chotama de. Tini jamso na nyampu. Project zone doles terana gisem takwa sem da sem zone na zoku chu ji yens
Ti yanke so.
takwa sem dang sem zone de na zoku chu ji yens project yung doles ti zhuani de da no yin jik de nu rin da ji de ju la nu ju ni ke dong da de sem ju ja. Nu juni. Tani du sem ni se yorwa. Jima de sem. Huma de ta nu sinam do lu.
Ja.
Console trap ta se.
Ti va tangara. So now you have analyzed that, and so there is basically 2 points to it. Now, have you now? Do you really now think that, or see how all the appearances, just like the various rivers in the world, like the Ganges River and so on, when they converge into the ocean and they meet in the vast ocean, they all turn into one taste. And then also the various concepts and mental events and mental arisings appearing in the mind, then they also, now have you also recognized that they are of one taste when they dissolve into the Dharma Dhatu expanse. So here basically we're speaking about the universe and all the beings, or one's own body and one's own mind, the appearances on the outer level and then within the mind. So then have you, now how did that go?
That's clear.
Is it clear?
Now you know Mahamudra. Enlightenment very fast. Yeah. Toji ches ta na choni ba gom ke chen de xie de nga te ti kare mo te pa de song se ne ta gom ke chen gom nyam ni si pe ka to chen kare ho te ma hi ya rin do wa de la je para nas Tomi tundam dorjil tar shipar sahin shi sumba dag khort sonden der jibanes ta jeba tena tomi dorjin gorsene yore dorjikilla o ta tina yi gogres
tina la kachore
te ta tara mane won yonko do o te ti tomi dorjin gorte ta tina na chowen song chudak
dorjin gorsen 이게 미라.
dorjin gortda. Gork mengna dorjin gortda. Tundam dorjin gors. Yeah.
Tadi cima yang gora. So then that was the first point now. And then now we are introduced. And then secondly, we also have to know the faults that can arise in meditation. And so about that, there is a song by Dhammakirti, the Drupon Lama Tsering. It's called the the Vajra song of the ultimate truth.
Then sem nam do chama de chuji yin sten de di dong de dar gom pe jim jok la sita de dar ha goya tang de nyam se len ke jim jok la then nor sa ta gom chun de da yo site gom ja ka so nor wa tang tru wa tang gom gu chun de da yo res ta de la sem necha zon zimbalas sem nebecha ji zon zimbalas chodo nam ngasam kakpo sem ta cho jog yord ramjin ke ngasong ya ta yang na kakpo sem ka sam ya ke sem ji yora de chola pen na chola dar cha ba je ta ba de mi pet ne ba jam chola tar di ice
Ice, did some ice chopper.
Yeah, so la tar chapa ta. De mi pe ne pa ten de rin de mari si ne pa tes. Je sapin ji ji pe kompang sum lan do ti som de. Thobzi ji shine jun jin si te chama te ta so so rewa ji top nung ya ke rewa yo ra ti shine de de jun jin re si.
Tambura.
The Tamboya. Chunchachik,
Sagia Pandita Sonra.
Saping, same nature zones in it. In its sort of your Sukaya, Pelan Sola Tacha, but the Indemi may Paneva.
So now we have understood that ultimately all water then converges in the vast ocean. And so similarly, all the thoughts, all the mental arisings, they are one within the expanse of Dharma Dhatu. And so then having understood that, then we also engage in practice. And then there are various ways in which we can go astray or faults or like pitfalls that lead to confusion and so on in our meditation. And so first, it is that when the abiding quality of your mind is principally held, so that is if you mainly focus on the still abiding quality of the mind, then it happens that with regard to the objects that appear to the six sense consciousnesses, that you either block them, those objects, or that you have a wish to block them, so a mind that thinks of blocking them. And then the mind is like a lake that is covered by a sheet of ice. And so there is this abiding quality, but there is also a grasping that has a thought of, is it, am I abiding, am I not abiding, and so on. So there's this focus on abiding. And Sakya Pandita had now commented on that when the abiding quality is treated as like most important in a meditation. So there is basically there's three things that can go wrong. And so the first one he said is that the first thing is that you have this hope that of attaining anything, a hope of gaining anything, a hope of gaining or attaining this state of calm abiding, and that is the first fault.
Tijila, Tarate, Nechat, Zonzura, Tayang Sachate, Chodok Nawa Manga Jangs, Sir Chodok Nawatim, Manga Jang, De Masarawai, Wavarpos, De Sarmaton, Wavarpo, Gom, Warvars in the same level, Karela. Gom Dembo, ship Junjins. That is sem sarva misarva chi walevele yorwa
tikol samatawara
junjin is gum dembo shipi junjin chodok sardang misarve chodok de set chodok yor de sarong misarong chorwa mi be thome was Chola Chuni, maybe Tara Guzamulan and the Sona, Giamarin, Tomeva, Dega Marin Tripajos, Giamarin Tomeva, dear, Maris, the Marin Tripajos, Chola maybe Tomeva. Loma Tinshi Junjin is Tateri Mari Loma Tinshi Junjin.
So that is the fault when one considers the abiding quality as most important, as principle. And then secondly, if the clarity quality is held as principle, so then here that it says that even if you do not reject or try to block the appearances, the objects that are perceived by the six sense consciousnesses, there still is this striving mind that wants to achieve clarity. And that is also a fault of meditation. And then that's one, where clarity becomes a fault. And then the third one is when there is more a state of indifference, of numbness. So that is when the objects of the six sense consciousnesses, so whether there is clarity about them or not, whether you're aware of them or not, there is this general state of numbness or like mental dullness. Also in the Samanta Bhadra prayer, it is said that it is when there is when one is unmindful, then this state, one becomes obscured by this state of like mental dullness, this confused state of ignorance. It is the fault of a neutral or indifferent state where there is uncertainty of what that state actually is.
Tatijila Namto Ngama Gakpajis, Deba, Unto Hamatanga, Chima de Machipai Kons, Namto Jiman Matiko. Sem Demi Hebo, de Gombas, Sem Desa Mepa He, de Gomba. Lam Tong Mazin Junjin, the Sem Desa Mepa Hebo, de Ramayempa, the Lam Tong Zisin. Zisin Matomna, Hunting no Progress. When I send some Hamatanga, some at the Machi part the same Nelote Tong to Gurilandua. Then the Lam Tong Mazina, the Arsa, the head Gomdena Anti June reason, June.
So then when we new meditate and all thoughts cease, so the prior thoughts have all come to an end and the next thoughts have not yet arisen. So in between those thoughts, the state in between the thoughts, that is where we actually can see the nature of the mind. But then even though thoughts have ceased and no future thoughts have yet arisen, if you don't really view the mind clearly and you are more in a state of mental blankness, then that is also a fault. It is the fault of not practicing, applying vipashyana or special insight. So at this moment you actually can see the natural state of the mind, but if you're not applying that seeing, viewing quality, then again, and that leads to a fault in meditation.
Yang Deda Lam Tong Sina Yang, Starat Lam Tong Mazin Junchas, Yang de Sina Yangs, Sakchin Tele Mayube, Hebo Gom the Depese, De Gom Jimuge Junjins, the Saja Chimbula, Deson Rumbuchik, Ranek Twendam Yarwes Cha. Then Jale Tele Mandawa, saying the Saja Chimbotele Mayuba. Tara Lam Tong sing at the Tibotile, Maiba goes around Tela. You was in Hebo Gom the Debate. That is Inco in the Bason. Debe said, Ante Gomche, Muge Junjins, and Muge Sinatixco Masawado, Junjins.
Contela Taron Yoba Yora.
san ranik tongdam jar sa jan tel manda
inen khusin na yang ra
ya sin na yang ya ko jamba hi kyung do jo tang sim de yo sa ya
sim no. So that was the fault now of not actually practicing vipassana, a special insight. And then next is the fault that can arise even if you practice vipassana, even if you're actually holding this special insight. And so that happens when you are viewing the mind, and there is this state of Mahamudra that you're viewing, but there still is a state of dullness that leads to a grasping, a concept, a notion of I'm viewing it, I'm seeing it. That state of Mahamudra. And so the way, for example, Rinpoche defines this term Mahamudra is that you are coming into the presence, meeting with your own awareness. You pay homage to your own awareness. And then, so that's actually this term Mahamudra is Chagya Chenpo, and so Chag means that, this is homage. And Gya is like a seal, or also it means like not going beyond something. And Gya here means that nothing lies beyond it. It is all there is. And so now, even though you recognize that state of vipassana, of Mahamudra, there still might be a slight notion of grasping here, of being there, of seeing that. And then that is meditation, but it is still not complete. There's still something incomplete here. So there is a fault.
Tati jila sim de line wa tsam gomba yang sim de wa tang sim line wa tsam gomba yang lam thong ke yishi mi pe se ta de la yang lam thong ke yishi mi pe se nam to ta na wa darin jin sim de wa tang sin gom de lam thong ke yishi te me na de nam to ta na wa chama darin jin ro re se de jik la nin jin ji jun jin Chik sim ni watela tani zinro yate chunjin landa.
And so then also another fault is that when you are abiding, resting in this natural state, and you're resting at a state at ease, and how even if you rest within this natural state at ease, if this insight does not possess primordial wisdom, then you will grasp or perceive thoughts and appearances as enemies. And seeing them in that way, you have already developed duality because you see them as something else, and therefore there arises the fault of dualistic grasping.
Yang sem dusum je tokpa yudo jo sem de la neba da mong batata dusum je tokpa yudo jo de yilam zi tong sang de yang lam tong ki ji ma zin tong sang ye wa de yang saragora de lam tong ki ji ma zin na cha ka pu jun jin na wa cha de ka ya bu jun res yang kanang cheshara thamche la kare nang kare cheshana yang dimi jin jintang che gom na ta gom la che gom tan jo gom sin in wa te de che gom se ya de den ba me ba hilan jintang che gom na de pap cha sai che gom na chang yi che tong bu ni shi jin se chang dong da ni dong tong bu ni shi jin ngu mi deng jin be jun jin ngu bo mi ngu mi deng jin be ni jun yong ru re xiao de ni song yan yang
de zhang dong deng ni shi de la de
de tong bu ni shi jian do shi de zhang dong deng jin ni dong
zhang dong deng ni de la de na ka yong gu de
tong bu ni shi jian
dong bu yi shi jian
ta zhang dong deng ngu bo de shi你都得等东巴的些，但可你这个逻辑见过了，你是真是。但你我没等真被尊敬，他我不要嘛的是一样，当不强中多少了。
And so then even if you're able now to sever all thoughts of past, present, and future, and you do not at all engage in any kind of mental activity, no thought, all thoughts have been emptied, the mind remains completely empty, but still, if you do not possess clarity, you are not practicing vipashyana, the special insight. And then the fault that arises is that you will block the aspect of appearance. You will block appearances. So that fault arises. And then another one is that no matter what appears and what arises, there is this state where you believe that things do not truly exist, all those appearing things. So you believe that whatever arises, all appearances do not really exist. And you have learned that through your analytical meditation. So basically there's two kinds of meditation. There is the meditation where we just rest, which is called placement meditation. And then the other one is analytical meditation where we analyze. And so through this analytical meditation, you have now this imprint in your mind, this habitual way of analysis. You have established a habit of analysis, of knowing that things do not really exist. And so you have gained an understanding and certainty even in the provisional teachings and also the ultimate definitive teachings. And for example, in the definitive teachings, these refer to the teachings on emptiness, that things lack inherent existence. And so you have gained certainty in that through your analytical meditation. And therefore, the fault that arises here is that you develop the fault of grasping at a lack of reality. So you have this notion thinking that things don't really exist. So there is like a subtle grasping at emptiness.
Yang Jimmy the Nawa Tsotola Stemba Mebetoni Nawa Tsoto Giola Pagawatan Tsudruba Gadu Meza Gomshi Bangs Anyoms Nebe Junjins Tatilan this one Namdur Gomba Mai Gomba is Namdur Pas Goms in the Gomya mix and the same Yomares Gomba Mai Gom the Yamis and it till a gom. Sona the Gomba and in Chota Chupateris, Tarana Sotichi, or the Tara Parsenka Sutavatan, so Nani Tachu Mato, Netikia, Dramatic Tantella Lindy Gatin, Samateke, says the same thing in Tachu Mares. Namjur Gomba Mai, Gomba long to Chuno Gomba Chos, Gomba on the Chuno Gomba Chol and the Tindo in Sari. Tanyums and Nepe Junjin.
And then the next fault is that when there is a lack of mindfulness, then there is a tendency where we, even though there is like no mindfulness, we also don't engage or block any of the objects of the six sense consciousnesses. So there is no rejection and no acceptance, but there also is a blank state of unmindfulness, like a neutral, indifferent state. So it leads to the fault of indifference. It is that for a yogi and for a practitioner, it's not the meditation, but it's the habituation. And so what that means is that there is nothing, it's not about meditating on something, but what we call practice now, what we call meditation practice is not meditating on something, but it is to habituate the practice, to sustain the practice. And one who habituates meditation, habituating meditation is the supreme practice. So also in the break, someone asked a question relating to that. So when you receive an answer to a question, you might have some understanding, but then it's ultimately really something that you have to resolve on your own within yourself. because even if a question is answered, if the experience does not arise really directly and from deep within you, you will still not fully resolve that point. And so that is why it is said it's not about meditating on something, it's about actually practicing and habituating meditation. So when that is not done, then it leads to a fault of indifference, or like indifferent blank equanimity.
Yang semni salam to pa semni sarang nam to me pa de da gom den zimba yang to pa ran so hien ne jang ri pa salang zong me de ne lo ki den dan chan da yang semni salam me to pa de da gom de zimba yang sta de ko yu sin zimba yang de len zimba xiong ro to pa ran so hien ne jang nam to de ran sa la ma hien ne jang ri pa sarwa de len de ri sin zong me ta de sem ne lo ki den da chan ra wo yu na yang den da wo yu na ya me to pa ni jin de be se nam to me pa de hang nam to me be sem de yang se ni je sin yang se so sun de be se ang sem ji yang go res
de ba
nam to me be sem sa wo de yung ya kan de ba ji ho ra ha de de he sa ma de yang dong dam so re ba se dong dam mo la so re ba sem dang sem zong jin yi ba sem kurang dang sem le song a ta ra di la sem zong ap chung a kik sin pa mo ke di gol la mungo kambo ngap chung a kik mungo kambo lön ba ngap chung a kik to sha yo le de ta nam to chama je yan chung ra dang ji de sem zong ngap chung a kik pe sem song pe mang bo yong go res jin yi ba sar tong ge ngang de shike wa sem sar wa dang tong ba ge ngang de de ni shike wa se de ha ko an da sar tong sar ba ram yin tong ba ram yin sar wa se de ni gom dang so da yang ta de ni de gom nyam ni dang so da wo yin na yang sem ge chen ba lap chin ji rang wap dang luk sem jemba lap chimbo shuk chimbo de rangwa ta yang jemba lukbo lucha de la me is o de yang de chang sa me chang yo sa mari o da de pa de yo ma bo cha mari
hai sen lucha ko yo ra
ha jemba de la lucha de jembo chik kono chama tak dan ro mo do ta tara te dorjil sin ringbo chin do wa te ma che tem de ke chot chiran chol ma lo yo ma to te chama de le law mo do wa
then there is also a fault that arises when the mind is actually clear and there are also no thoughts in the mind. There is then the fault of grasping at that state. So it is then when, even though thoughts have all dissolved naturally, awareness, the nature of your true awareness cannot be pointed out as being this or that. It's unidentifiable. And at this point, even though you are in a state of non-conceptuality, also the mind is clear, there is subtle grasping of identifying this awareness of what it is. And that state is actually quite similar to the ultimate nature of the mind, but it's not quite it, because there's this subtle grasping. There is this subtle desire to be within that state of non-conceptuality and to identify this state of non-conceptuality. And that's also a fault of meditation. It is called having hopes to achieve something that is ultimate, on the ultimate level. And so within the mind, then there's various mental arisings, various different concepts that arise in the mind. We speak about 51 mental events. Also in the Vajravarahi song, it says that she wears a necklace that is made of 51 dried human heads. And that is a symbol of having severed, cut through all concepts, self-grasping and so on, and the various mental events, 51 mental events and so forth. And so having cut through all of these mental events, then all of these thoughts through, having cut through conceptuality, you're just abiding in a state that is clear and empty. And also there is a knowing quality there. You know, you are fully aware of being within that state. You are aware of the empty state that is clear and the clear state that is empty. And that is really quite similar to the actual state of nature of the mind. But then the fault that arises here is that this mental presence here is like too strong. There's too much of a focus here. So what is lacking here is a natural, relaxed, released state. So the mind is not fully released. So that is the subtle fault that arises here. So just by the way, we are still in that song, this Vajra song. That's why we are just reading it for the sake of auspiciousness too. But it's quite a long song.
Hajang Jimpe Doctor Jeans Payang Semdelpe Jim Durusitzer Tijang Nelok Toparka, Doctor Velika, Nelok Sem Nelok Toparka Kalakabores, Toparkas Honde Kun Tompe Bekamje o Sipan Kamson Korata, Hivanyang and Debanika, Tombares, Tombe Bekamje Tombares. Jam cho some Japsman in Sanje Chugan, Concho some Japsman in Sitaman Condeni Tombares, Timan Roa Rectula, Ningi Meche, Yasanje, Masem Jimmy, Tama Tombarilla, then Jumdrell and Jonio Chubayans, Jordan Drembolata, Jonio Chusita. Concho me, Rodo Semti, Miss Sanje, Miss in the thing, can you mind your Sira Chubayang? Tate, Napo, Kanjam Chetoni. Napo Kanjams to the Pe Kakayabo, said to one pe. The need so land by Yuma. Sanganelo, Napo Kanjam Chetoni is. Tarania Kanjam Laura, Shano Capson, Pardoni. The need La Robasini, La Trot, so Pehu, and Drat and Searching Body, de la Hie, the wood and certes or Romoto. Tama Nyavalan than Solan thinking Tisoku, who the pen Jambo, Drat, the Nibo, the Dashimbo Maimba. The Nitik Dropassing in this part in Jambo Shivand, Napokanya, Nia Kanya, Nia Kanya. That ended that in a Yaposit and Rondo thinking is also on the chin or Napokanyam Tony is there. Sem ne sam yuam kangtar yang sem ne nari yuam kangtar jang jun da yun dim gek ser bondun bas bondun so gugachi nimbo torse ne tang te guhundos te guhundos paga te guhundos cholenyate nimbo te chama pa torne Degamala, Jonghilos, Gusana Yintra, Tola, Dini, Jongores, Ramap Nelon. Jongo, Jonghilo, Sitatana,
the word also.
Thomas Songo, Doyamdo,
So the song continues. So now then there's the fault that arises when the mind is extremely focused and you are trying very hard to focus. So there is this effort in focusing, and then it is also difficult to realize the nature of the mind. And so with that intense state of mind, you do understand the emptiness. So you understand that samsara and nirvana are empty. So there's 3 worlds of samsara, and the peaceful state of nirvana are all empty of self-nature. And then because of that, then the fault that arises is that you do not follow the 3 jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, as a source of refuge. And you also do not develop compassion for the sentient beings in the 6 realms, because you just think that everything is empty anyways. There are no sentient beings. There are no Buddhas. There are no sentient beings. And then that leads to a denial of karma, cause and effect, that certain causes lead to certain results, because anyways it's all empty. And then that leads to all kinds of harmful conduct, and we do all kinds of things, whatever we want. So even though we know that things are empty, we are really going astray. It is like your mouth is sweet, but actually you're led into darkness. So what you do is actually becomes harmful. And so how you are led into darkness then is that after you have died, the consciousness goes on to the bardo state, the in-between state, and here then the deities will appear, and they are actually your source of refuge to help you. So they appear, but their appearance is very fierce, wrathful. The light that they emit, the light that appears, is very it's dazzling. It's too strong, and the sounds are very like loud, and there are like very bright rays everywhere. And this spectacle of intense and dazzling, blinding light and rays and sound and so on, and deafening sound, that then will generate fear. So you will not dare to go there. You don't want to go into the blinding and like light and the roaring sounds. You're afraid. And then there is this other light that is very soft and gentle, but that is the light that will bring you into the 3 lower states of existence, like hell and so on. So that light is very dim, and it feels very soft and comfortable, and you want to go there. So then, if you go there, then these lights will bring you into the lower realms. So that is what will happen then, the harm that happens as in going to darkness. And so it says then here in the song that whatever arises, whether the mind is still or the mind is moving, that is, these instructions are, we need to discern between the faults and the qualities, and these instructions become an enhancement, like a stepping stone for us to clear away those hindrances, no matter whether the mind is abiding or moving. And then if you have once you have been able, so that what you need to be done then is that clearing away all these faults, then you let go of all antidotes and of all ideas of I need this or I don't need that and so on. Letting go of all of these antidotes, what needs to be done is just to sustain and maintain this natural state of the nature of mind, your natural state.
Tati jitalas jumi la tripa la jumi la tripa las ta sacha chigla rogona ta ngachuni ro manyo chigla nge chirang tin rona jumi tripa la re sune langa da kare ni jawan rogo ngan ro manyo le ke chirang tin tani pe no va dan tro mambo ra jumi tripa las Meng saja cembo takpa mang siti meng telo tapi meng cembo saja cembo takpa anda nga turis guys yang se ando meng saja cembo takpa mang tanda mang bo yores sem ngupu tundam to solo sem rangnelo ngupu tundam te to solo se ta te ke ne ha ko song sa deng sa nyumong che to pa chi ma tha ta sem ne lo nang na nyumong bo to pa te chi ma tha de nam to khayin che dong a ra sem nam to khayin si de pe ya karala ko shokki bo sen nam do khayin te ya shor song khayin che nyumong bo dong a ra mi doctor song a sor ma do si ta mi de doctor song a na ye de su su ma to pa 중 탐지 자와 히드나다 시다 중 탐지 니몽 탐지 그 논초 탐지 그 자와데 데나린도 다 되는데 로지 거데 다나 조소 다 참아들 중데 데린도
So, and then the last one, which is actually the root of all faults, is that you're relying. It's called relying on a guide or leader, a guide, being led by a guide who actually doesn't know where he's going. So, for example, if you want to go somewhere, then you want to have a guide who's been there before. So you ask them, take me. You go to India and you ask them, take me there. But then, if you're having a guide who actually has never been there themselves, who don't really know where we are going, then there's many ways you can go astray. So we call it many different names, Mahamudra and so on. But it is also just like saying, like advertising, I'm a tourist guide, but really you don't know where you're going. And that is all of these labels and the conventions that we follow in our mind. All these labels that we give the state of Mahamudra, the nature of the mind. So you have an understanding of the nature of the mind. So you think, I know the nature of the mind. But then, even though you believe that, there is this undercurrent of afflicted thought within your mind, and when this undercurrent arises, then you will naturally just be led by this undercurrent of affliction, and that is just like medicine having transformed into poison, and that is really the root of all faults or mistakes that we can make in meditation. So that's the end of the Vajra song.
Tadela dor saman dor duyan de insari sam do tape mambo jiktan do tara trupchin karma norosin
so
trupchin karma norosin nga so karma norbo ha karma ka juri nga chu ta lama tambo chushu sa chi yuri na kerang chushu pe nam jur pa ta chi mo jur khong ti ngonan de song da lo ante dinjin chi churpa ma yignas lo anin the yama yenin the ti demban jimba dinjin chin churpa de ma yigna gom sipa thamje rango rayo yin tara jumi manitini jumi khiba na ji gom jaya de so le tin go ton ya res ta de gom jaya de chama sem lo de ke demban jimba ngupo dinjin kan churpa de pa she gure lo ante dinjin chen churpa ma yegna gom sipa thamji rango rayo ka se gom nyane na go ko to res gom te sem ke demban jimba lo nam to ta ya ba te le demban jimba te she gure ta tera na kin te lo pa ken de son do naro pala bos nawe menchen simbe chen simba chujing naro pas tatena pe mambo jigita sem de chikjang ma zoya se le den orduna nawa teke chen kamare ko kare nang de na phato yami se yogyana nam khane temba tabana yin ron res simba chujing naro pas te demban jin te le cha ashi tara gomla deva sarva mato patne ta mambo chi shinsan do wa ho ten di shinpa chu jing na ro ba deva la cha sarva la shin karam ho ten du ta tir kare sona deva sarva kare na te la cha shin tene redo son sona pen yo mare se ta nyam ti reri thoni pa tor tho go re.
So to summarize, there is this song of realization that was spoken by Drupon Lama Norbo, a Karma Kagyu Lama, that I've also myself received teachings from, a really great yogi. And so in his song it says that if the confusion in the mind that comes from grasping at a true existence of things, a solidified grasping at the true existence of things, if that confusion is not shattered, then even though you might be a meditator, you're really only fooling yourself. It's just like you're just following along a travel guide who doesn't know where he's going. So just like that, the point of practice really is to let go completely of all confused fixations, beliefs in any kind of true existence. So all of these thoughts and labels that we fabricate in the mind, it all must be destroyed. Tilopa said to Naropa, "Son, it is not the appearances that keep you in bondage, but it's your attachment to them that keeps you in bondage." Therefore, Naropa cuts through all clinging, all attachment. So all of these verses and so on are really for us to clear our mind, to purify the mind. And so not appearances the appearances do not keep you in bondage. They don't really affect you if you just let them be. There might be appearances, but you don't have to pursue them. And then they will disappear just like a cloud in the sky. Therefore, do not become attached to them. Do not cling to those appearances. Do not believe in their reality. And it also refers to the appearances, the experiences of meditation. There is, for example, the experience of bliss or clarity or non-conceptuality. Do not be attached, do not cling to them. So often we are attached to the blissful state, or we cling to clarity and so on. So as long as there are those subtle hopes and expectations, you will not see the actual nature of the mind. So in that way, through your own personal experience, in that way, you must become liberated.
Derido tarong yanjar semdela shorsa ye korsa sum sendo ta gomnyani sipakapso semde namto gi shondwa shorsa ye dela shila shorwa sem nimpor shorwa te jong ma din de de yong do de meng li do wa short sa ye de la shi le shorwa
shi zena ka sha
ko shi se shi sim ni por shorwa lam to shorwa jen de shorwa sin short sa ye do tene
jen de sin ka
jen de se tsaman de de wo le yong do Tendu teni di yete la yang rere la yen shorwa tang chart shorwa sina ni hong
yen tang chale So then it says here there are four ways in which we can, like, the mind is like we lose, the mind slips, and there's 3 ways of going astray in meditation. So first, there are 4 ways in which the mind, the meditation is lost. There's the mind is lost to various thoughts and so on. So there's 4 ways here. And the first one is you are lost in, then explanation follows later too, but you're lost in the natural state. And secondly, you're lost in the antidotes. And thirdly, you're lost on the path. And fourth, you are lost in the ceiling or what? So it says here literally you're lost in like a ceiling, but basically what it is you're sealing the facts that you have understood, like things do not inherently exist or they inherently exist and so on. And so then each of those 4 has 2 aspects to it. That is, there is a fundamental loss or slipping, and then there is a momentary, a temporary loss or slipping.
Oh yeah, thanks. The mashor
So before we get completely lost, let's take a break and eat lunch first. Money?
Okay.
Money,
Thank you. Kalala semba shondo
The mind is already lost. I'm thinking about the food. It's not easy, right? Very good, yeah.
So no huge announcements, except that anyone who wants to offer service will take it. And good news is that we are very close to having our system functional. So it's semi-functional right now. We don't have to be on generator, but we still ask everyone to be very mindful of their power usage. We normally have 8 inverters going, now we only have 4. So just thank you. Thank you. Did you want to start with? Yes. So low.
Recognize your difference. If you can talk about that.
Yeah. Thank you.
I managed to pick out a few little things.
Yes, that'd be nice. Yeah.
I had no idea. I thought I might have meditated for a couple seconds. Here and there.
I have timer. I can set it right here.
I don't know. Might have been fake.
All the sides of it. I don't know. Okay, so I'm going to reach over there and press that button. Do all the seconds. And you just press the screen. Oh, you just press the screen. Like that. Tips up. Yes.
No. Attention.
Yeah.
Think of the past.
Awesome. Well, just
For a lot of people.
That's an amazing picture of all of us. Yes, it really came out great. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
nice.
If you're calling it the
latest generation of the same thing.
Oh, this thing or something.
That's why.
Still going okay.
I love it. The same song.
Yeah. I'm really happy with that picture.
I think it's called a galaxy or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
had the best time, I'm telling you. This is just kind of... Oh, yes, I love coming here. I just love coming here. Yeah. Did you learn things that you did not know about meditation?